Call the meeting to order. Tuesday, February 13, 2018, full county board meeting. Clerk will call a roll, please.
Alt. Anderson. Behrens.
Here.
Bills.
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
Kokenauer. Crow. Curtis. Asbargen.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Crumweedy.
Present.
Lemie. McGinnis.
Here.
McTaggart. Awful.
Here.
Persley.
Present.
Raymond. Shure.
Here.
Sticknot.
Present.
Whitlow.
Here.
5 absent. 13 present.
Okay, Barb?
Yes, we had a miscommunication for our pastor this evening, and Chaplain McGinnis was kind enough to say prayer to us.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather, for the privilege of serving the people that we represent. I ask that you just give us all wisdom to make the hard choices, the right choices, so that we can do what's best for now and for the future. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Curtis, is there a second? Mr. Bills, are there any questions or comments regarding the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Minutes from the January 29th, 2018 session and the January 25th, 2018 special session. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Mr. Alt, excuse me. I'm tongue-tied tonight, I guess. Yeah. Is there a second? Mr. Whitlow. Are there any questions or comments regarding any of those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Payroll.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Crumweedy makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Awful. Are there any questions or comments regarding the payroll? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Asbargen.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Crumweedy.
Yes.
Lemie.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
Yes.
Shure.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
16 to nothing. That motion approved. Public comments. No public comments. We'll go on to the outside organization reports. Mr. Baragry.
Is this working? Is that on? Can you hear me?
Turn it on. It might not be turned on.
It says on. It says on. Can you hear me okay? Can you? That's too bad. Few unfamiliar faces. I'm Ken Baragry. I'm the executive director of the Iroquois Economic Development Association. We are a nonprofit, not a county committee, but we are financed and supported in part by the county board and many communities and businesses. Excuse me. I was unable to make the last meeting, the first, I think, night meeting. I was unable to make that. We took my wife's stepfather, up to Rush Hospital in Chicago for an operation that day. That 5 to 7 day hospital stay is now in its 35th day. He's doing better. and it should be only a few more days. But during that time, I've driven back and forth to Rush 15 times, I think. It's almost habit pattern now. I said if I had a job like that, I'd quit, but you got to do it. I missed so many days that I had to take it as vacation time. Susie and I had been talking about a real vacation. We hadn't taken one for over 3 years, but we didn't have Rush Hospital on the list. Maybe next year. I met last week with another new solar company. They do solar farms, but they also are big in projects from businesses to homes. Interesting company. They discuss projects like hospitals, factories, schools, combo projects, subdivisions, that type of thing. They suggested that there could be significant cost savings if they were to, if a community or the county were to coordinate an effort where they could get a group of them together where they'd have some economies of scale. They'd pass those economies on to the individual customers, homeowners, whatever. They are currently looking for a 15 to 20 acre plot somewhere near a substation or at least a good solid three-phase. They don't build their own substations like the wind farm people did to kick off their solar activities in the county. I thought about that, and you know, there's a lot of ground, a lot of land in the county that would work for that kind of thing that isn't currently being tilled, that wouldn't force us to take cropland out of production. So if we can find one that's close to where they can plug in, we'll make it work. Our revolving loan committee met for our initial organizational meeting. We covered a lot of ground, and we had more to go over even, but we decided we would wait to meet again until there was some solid interest in the loan. Do it live. I've put a link in my email signature. I've put a page on the IDA website. I've put a page on, or put it on our IDA Facebook page, and I'm testing a couple of Google ads, offering them as small business booster loans. We decided that referring to them as revolving loans was not very descriptive and not very promotional. I've got a couple of interested parties, but neither of them is near the point of application yet. Speaking of that, I'm constantly being asked if there's anyone wanting one of the loans. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want one of the loans, whether they're qualified or not. I'm not sure. I just wanted to make sure that everyone realizes that having the loans available is not going to make anyone jump up and come up with a business idea so that they can qualify for one of the loans. It's the other way around. The loans are valuable as a carrot or incentive to someone who already has a good business plan, at least a great business idea. A bridge loan then could help them make it a reality or encourage them to bring the business to Iroquois County. So I'd appreciate if everybody spread the word and tell anyone that you hear of that has a good business idea or plan or wants to expand a current business that get a hold of us at IDA. We can work with them and help them with advice and experience and the funding. Got some good business people on our board that are more than willing to help. Since my last comments about the loss of the 3 fast food restaurants in Watseka, rumors have abounded. I think everybody's probably heard at least a half a dozen of them. And the landscape has changed some. KFC, you've probably noticed, was stripped of its identity and repainted. As of this moment, that's purely a KFC corporate decision, requirement, similar to the disidentification of the Pizza Hut over there. I believe there is some interest in the KFC building, but nothing serious yet, as far as I can say. There are other rumors about McDonald's and Burger King, but nothing that we can really report that's real there yet. The Pizza Hut building did tentatively sell, but that fell through, and I don't think they have an interested party for that one yet. VIPs, I guess, is what I wanted to mention. The landscape changes I mentioned earlier. VIPs and Shorty's. Shorty's, of course, burned, and the building next to it, and left a horrible mess on Walnut Street. And the cleanup hasn't yet been started, but as far as I know, that's pending a decision by the insurer. VIPs was reopened by the original Louis and his Kenzie Orris, yeah, and his son Chris, and they've got that back open. So with that open and the Scotchman's West back open, it lit that neighborhood back up a little bit to help with the loss of the KFC. But I'm sure you notice when you come into town from the north or come into town from the west, the first prominent thing you see is that big old empty building sitting there on the hill. So we are desperately in need of a new tenant out there. And as long as I'm talking about restaurants, let's talk about burgers and beer for a minute. With the restaurants closing and opening all over the place, it starts to make you wonder what's going on. Donna, last time you asked me what was going on with burgers and beer. I told you at that time I didn't know their timetable. I called right after that, and like I said, I wasn't here last month, but I was told that they had purchased another building up towards Wilmington that was nearly turnkey, so they had switched their efforts up that direction for a while. But they did tell me at that time that they were waiting on blueprints, and he promised me there would be a burgers and beer in Waseca's future. I found out 3 days ago that the blueprints are back, and so let the work begin, I guess. I think I did hear, I haven't been in there recently, but I did hear that they were in there doing a little bit of work on the kitchen already. So I am working with Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. John's on a board down there too that deals with that, and they are doing they call it a labor shed, a local labor shed study of the region. It's studying local employment demographics, including characteristics of currently employed, underemployed, unemployed individuals. We plan to use that data when it's finished to assess workforce training needs in the region and to identify our actual workforce and where they commute from, where they drive in from to go to work. And then we would like to make a plan to optimize that workforce and help existing businesses to expand, help to attract prospective business, and hopefully turn the exodus of talent around. I've just a few miscellaneous items here. I suppose most of you probably heard of or read about the GPS tracked mileage tax they were talking about. Thank God some of our representatives have some common sense. They wanted to put GPS on vehicles and tax us by how many miles we drove on Illinois roads. In Springfield, they never seem to do anything that make things better. They just try to figure a way to add some more taxes. Thankfully, that's probably not going to happen. The Loft restaurant over in Ashcombe, I don't know a lot about that one, but there was a rumor going around that a trucking firm had bought it and they were going to make a trucking operation out of it, but that was just a rumor. I understand now that they are returning it to restaurant status, and I don't know if Dee or
Yes.
I didn't see Bob, but yeah, maybe they can expand on it a little bit. But that's a good thing. That was always one of the better restaurants in the county, and hopefully they'll return it to that place. Anything to add there to that?
They've come into the health department numerous times. They want very much to make sure that they're following all the county ordinances, the state codes, the IDPH food code. They've been very cooperative, and they came in last week and met with Terry again about their plan submittal. So they're working very diligently to get that up and running.
It's nice to hear that somebody wants to cooperate and do it right, huh?
Yeah, they've been very, very cooperative. And their kitchen plans are amazing.
Are they?
Amazing. They're going to have 2 separate kitchens. It's going to be a nice
Wonderful.
place.
Wonderful. Yeah, we can use it. Another restaurant, I noticed it on an advertisement, the I Don't Care Grill and Chill. They put up a new sign. I just love that name. I don't know how many times I've asked my wife, where you want to eat? And she says, I don't care. Good choice. The new banquet room in Watseka apparently didn't work out. That building appears to be closed. I don't think they ever had their first banquet there. I would like to tell you about a Facebook page. Donna, you already know about it. I see you on there. It's Barb's page called the Iroquois County Business and Event Showcase. You might remember me talking about Barbara Davis. She was our first female president of IDA, and she's going back through the officers' chairs again. She liked it so much, I guess. Strong-armed her, but she's doing it. But she's great gal. She spends a lot of her own time running this page. She puts things on there about things to do in the county. She shares ads from different businesses in the county. It's really, if you're ever on Facebook, it's really worth taking a look because she does put a lot of stuff on there, puts a lot of time into it. And finally, I guess I'd like to thank those of you that have supported the third annual Brett Berrigree Memorial Education Fundraiser. That's an effort that, in my son's name, we use to provide funds for continuing education for area first responders. You can't do too much for our local heroes. It has already exceeded both previous years. This is the third year, and yet still has some time to run. And today happens to be exactly the third anniversary of my son's passing, so it's been a little bit of a tough day, but I'm happy to see that that's going well. We're able to give funding to all four of the groups that my son was involved with. Iroquois Memorial Hospital, he was a paramedic there. Riverside Hospital, he was a paramedic there. Watseka Fire Department when he lived in Watseka, Woodland Fire Department when he was near the end. And he was in the Coast Guard as well and did the paramedic stuff in there too. So thanks to whoever's helping support that, we appreciate it. Questions?
Thanks, Ken. Outside organization reports, anyone else? Mr. Alt. Notice I got your name right that time.
Back on February 8th, I attended the University of Illinois Extension Unit 13 Extension Council meeting. The council consists of Ford, Iroquois, Champaign, and Vermilion County, 4 counties. It was going to be a short report because there was no quorum. We didn't have last year's figures to go over, and only a brief idea of this year's figures during the evening. They did have some nice presentations about what they are offering for teaching classes so far. They got a food science at the University of Illinois, hands-on activity targeted to up to 30 high school students. That is going to be February 24th on a Saturday. PBL and Iroquois West are going to have a real-life finance stimulation based on career choices, and they had a nice brochure to hand it out on their Market to My Plate program, where they hands-on teaching families to prep, cook, and serve healthy meals using market fresh produce. 82% of the participants increased the number of times they ate vegetables at each meal. 35% of participants now serve vegetables to their family 7 or more times per week. You okay? That's about all we had because it was a very short meeting. Any questions? Thank you.
Are there any other outside organization reports? Seeing none, we'll go to committee reports. Members of the county board, your committee to whom was referred policy and procedure would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on February 1, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were John Scher, Lyle Behrens, Russell Bills, and Marvin Sticknott. Dan Raymond, Kyle Anderson, and Troy Crumweedy were absent. Also present, Finance Director Anita Speckman, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler, ICP-HD Administrator Dee Shippert, EMA Director Eric Stacey, 911 Director Eric Raymond, IDA Director Ken Berrigree, County Board Member Larry Hasbargen, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Marvin Sticknott and seconded by Russell Bills to approve the agenda. The motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. The committee chairs gave their monthly reports. Highway Chairman Russell Bills reported the county highway letting was held January 31, and the committee will take action on the bids received. Management Chairman Lyle Behrens reported the county farm and office space in the Administrative Center will be discussed. The Judicial Committee will receive their monthly reports. Tax Chairman Marvin Sticknott reported the committee will receive their monthly reports and discuss a policy for handling dogs that can't be moved to shelters. EMA Director Eric Stacey reported to the committee he hosted a 2-day Homeland Security exercise and evaluation program class taught by IEMA. Stacey will assist in training the rest of the EMA coordinators in our region. Stacey has been working on executing the EOC technology grant by receiving bids that fall within his budget. An annual Weather Spotter seminar will be held February 7th at 6 p.m. in Crescent City. Stacey has set up a presentation with the Watseka Area Chamber of Commerce about businesses being prepared for a disaster. He is working on communicating with Iroquois County Chamber of Commerce as well. No update was given on the policy regarding distribution of emails and correspondence. The committee was provided with a copy of the job description for the deputy clerk in the finance office. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Behrens to adopt the deputy clerk job description for the finance office. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. The job description for the newly hired 911 director was distributed. Scher suggested the committee continue to review the job description for approval at a later date. Bills asked Raymond what action the ETSP board took on the job description. Raymond answered the ETSP board has reviewed the job description and has requested text messaging for fire and EMS be added. Updates to the sexual harassment policy was discussed. State's Attorney Jim Devine prepared an ordinance to update the existing policy. Scher suggested the ordinance be approved and the policy can be amended at a later date if necessary. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Sticknott to approve the sexual harassment policy. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. Finance Director Anita Speckman spoke to the committee regarding correspondence received from UCCI via email related to the Illinois Municipal Auditing Law. Speckman explained the law impacts townships and not the county. The Comptroller's Office is requiring all financials submitted be GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, compliant, meaning it must be on an accrual method rather than a cash method of accounting. UCCI is asking the counties to pass a resolution to reconsider any action taken. Bill suggested speaking with the townships and receiving their feedback before taking any action. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Behrens to table any action on the resolution provided by UCCI. Motion carried by a voice vote. The Illinois Consumer Electronics Recycling Act was discussed. Scher stated an email was forwarded to all county board members for their review. If Iroquois County is interested in participating in the act, there is a March 1 deadline to opt in or opt out. Sure suggested the matter be sent to the Finance Committee on February 8 to allow additional time for review. The matter of recycling has always been handled through the Finance Committee. County Board Member Larry Hasbargen noted the state passed the law and the manufacturers will pay all costs. There will be no cost to the county. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Behrens to send the Illinois Consumer Electronic Recycling Act discussion to the Finance Committee. That motion carried by a voice vote. Sure reported no appointments to be made for the month. Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler made sure aware he has received his Certificate of Education requirements and will be requesting a reappointment in May. Correspondence was distributed to the committee. Committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Behrens and seconded by Sticknott to pay the claims subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Bills and seconded by Behrens to adjourn at 9:43 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, signed by all members present, and I move for its adoption. Is there a second to the report? Mr. Behrens seconds. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Mrs. Crowe.
Well, in regards to recycling being handled by the Finance Committee always, that's a long, long time, but in the beginning, when we had, and Russell, you helped me with this, when we had the recycling grant, and I believe it was handled by the Health Department, the Health Committee, and that's also who had oversight over the very regulated fees that were as a result of the tipping fees when we had open landfills, just for clarification's sake.
That's fine. Thank you. I think my intent in that, and I don't think I'm being quoted correctly here, but I think my intent was to indicate that for the last couple of years it had been handled through the Finance Committee. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Bills.
Yes.
Bullman.
Yes.
Crowe.
No?
Curtis.
Yes.
Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Crumbley.
Yes.
Meade.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond. Shure.
Yes.
Sticknott.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Behrens.
Yes.
16 to 1. That motion is approved 16 to 1. Finance Committee, Mr. Alt.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Finance would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administration Center on February 8, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Michael McTaggart, Charlie Alt, Russell Bills, Ernie Curtis, and Sherry Johnson. Kyle Anderson and Dan Raymond were absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Scher, Finance Director Nita Speckman, State's Attorney Jim Devine, Sheriff Derek Hagan, Probation Director Tom Latham, County Clerk Lisa Thatcher, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler, ICPHD Administrator D. Shepard, and Susie Warner of Homestar Insurance. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Russell Bills and seconded by Ernie Smith to approve the agenda. Motion carried by voice vote. There was no public comments. Susie Werner with Homestar Insurance said she had no new activity to report to the committee. The department heads gave their monthly reports. They are as follows. Sheriff Derek Hagan reported the purchase of two 2016 squad cars totaling $45,866. Hagan also had a deputy retiring on February 5th. Hagan held interviews for a lateral transfer and a new deputy was hired with a starting date of February 16th. Finance Director Anita Speckman reported she is in the interview process for replacement of the deputy clerk's position in the finance office due to a retirement on March 30th. Speckman discussed the FY18 audit, stating she has a target completion date of March. The grand report for Illinois Department of Human Services had been audited and it is ready for submission. Rather than doing a separate agreement upon procedures for consolidation of financial reports, Speckman said the report will be a separate portion of our complete consolidated audit. This is a cost savings to the county. Speckman explained the ETSB cash report as being required by the state of Illinois for several years. The report includes every expense in ETSB for a year, beginning cash and ending cash. The due date has changed from September 30th to January 31. The report was submitted to 911 Eric Raymond on February 1. The committee was provided with a copy of the Consumer Electronics Recycling Act. County Board Chairman John Scher stated an email with the information was also provided to all board members via email on January 23rd. Scher said the act appears to primarily be intended for manufacturers and doesn't see any benefit to the county. There is a March 1 date to opt into the program. Scher suggested the county not opt in. Scher referred to section 1-80 parentheses A in the parentheses, which states nothing in this act provides a waste hauler from entering into a contract agreement with a unit of government to establish a collection program for recycling or using CEDs, including such as curbside collection, home pickup, drop-off location, or similar motions of collection. Parenthesis B in the parentheses. Nothing in this act should prohibit a person from establishing an e-waste program independently of a manufacturer's e-waste program, end of quote. Scher said he believes the act will allow the county to continue to hold their own recycling events. It was moved by Sherry Johnson and seconded by Bill, so table the matter of the Consumer Electronics Recycling Act until next month. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Charlie Alt and seconded by Curtis to pay the claims subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. The committee reviewed additional claims submitted by Sheriff Derek Hagan for a purchase of 2 new squad cars and for his travel expenses. It was moved by Alt and seconded by Bills to pay the claims for purchase of 2 new squad cars in the amount of $45,866 and for Sheriff Derek Hagan travel expenses in the amount of $464.71. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. During old business, State's Attorney Jim Devine requested the committee enter into executive session in regards to possible litigation regarding arbitrator's decision. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Alt to enter into executive session at 9:22 a.m. under 5 ILCS 120/2 parentheses C in the parentheses started parentheses 1 in parentheses litigation when an action against affecting or on behalf of the particular body, public body has been filed, is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that the action is probably or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of a closed meeting. A roll call was taken. Motion carried. It was moved by Bills and seconded by Alt to come out of executive session at 9:43 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote. No action was taken in executive session. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Alton, seconded by Bales, to adjourn at 9:44 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted by the committee members, Mike McTaggart, Charlie Alt, Russell Bales, Ernie Curtis, and Sherry Johnson. I ask for approval of the report.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the report. Is there a second? Mr. Bills. Are there any questions? Mr. Hasbargen. Could you speak into your microphone, please, sir?
Right. The statement in the paragraph, can you hear it, Don? Statement in the paragraph, it says, the act appears to be primarily intended for manufacturers. It's incorrect. The state actually mandated the manufacturers to provide recycling centers for the consumers. It is for the consumers. The manufacturers have to pay for it. It is for our benefit. Well, the first one I did, we collected 70,000 pounds that we paid so much a pound. The second one was 50,000 pounds. We paid so much a pound. If this was enacted, there would be some of our recycling would go there, and we wouldn't have near as much at our event, would cost us much less, would save us money. It is for our benefit. I would like to pull this paragraph out, and I'd like to have it for separate consideration for the full board to enact this, because it has to be enacted by the 1st of March.
Are you making that motion?
I'm making that motion.
Is there a second? Mrs. Johnson seconds. Are there any questions about what we'll vote for here? Can you call the roll, please?
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis. No. Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Crumweedy.
Yes.
Lemay.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Barons.
Yes.
Bills.
No.
The motion passes 15-2.
Any other questions or comments about the report?
We gotta take care of this paragraph first, and then
Oh,
we'll
okay, I'm
do
sorry.
the rest of the report later.
Just review what we did so far. Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, I'd like to make a motion to pass this. Pass this to have our recycling center. To opt in, exactly.
Your motion is for the county to opt into the
Exactly.
program.
I would like to have that. It would save us money.
Okay. Can you identify the amount of money it'll save us?
According to poundage, it'll cut down on the poundage that we have to pay for, so it will save. I don't know how much it will save.
I didn't see anything in that act that said anything like that. That's why I'm asking the question.
It saves what we pay to collect. If they collect it, we don't have to pay to collect it. So it saves. It's that simple.
Okay, but the manufacturer has to set up a collection site in the county.
Exactly. They have to set one up in 102 counties if all counties opt in. That's what the state mandated. And it don't cost us a dime. They have to cover it all. They pay all the expenses for it. The man that collects our recycling has already started to organize to pick up from these recycling places that they're going to have to set up. I talked with him.
Mr. Lemay?
I just want to second it.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor for the county to opt in. Are there any questions or comments regarding that? Mrs. Awful?
You said there's an act, where's the act where we can read that? What it says for ourselves?
She emailed it to you.
With the webinar, if you wanted to watch it.
And there was a webinar you signed up for too. I signed up for it and watched it.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk can call a roll, please.
Crow. Yes. Curtis. Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. Crumweedy.
No.
Lemay.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
No.
Sticknot,
No.
Whitlow,
Yes.
Alt,
No.
Behrens,
Yes.
Bills,
No.
Bowman,
Yes.
nine to seven, and one voting present. So that motion carried.
Motion passes 9-7. County will opt into the program. Now we'll go to the remainder of the report. Are there any questions or comments regarding the remainder of the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. Trumweedy.
Yes.
Levine.
Yes.
McGinnis. Awful. Persley. Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow. 17.
Motion passes 17-0. Management Committee, Mr. Behrens.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Management Services would beg leave to submit the following report on matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on February 5th, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Behrens, Alt, Hasbargen, Johnson, McGinnis, and Awful. Kevin Bowman was absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schur, Finance Director Anita Speckman, ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert, Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake, Superintendent of Veterans Assistance Jennifer Ingram, Lori Cummings with SmartWatt, and Wendy Davis with the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Barb Awful and second by Larry Hasbargen to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. During public comments, Sherry Johnson encouraged the committee to share all information with board members to avoid future issues that may occur. Johnson referred to the decision made during January's Management Committee meeting to allow the Veterans Office to move into the Animal Control Office. Johnson stated the board was put in a bad position when Lyle Behrens mentioned the Health Department had asked to utilize the space in the past. Lori Cummings with SmartWatt distributed information and gave a presentation to the committee. SmartWatt focuses on county building improvements that are centralized around energy efficiency. These improvements include LED lighting, cooling system replacements, and heating system replacements. Mr. Cummings explained the project cost is guaranteed and there are no out-of-pocket costs. It is moved by Chad McGinnis, second by Johnson, to allow SmartWatt to conduct the no-cost feasibility study for the Administration Center, Courthouse, and Jail. Motion carried by a voice vote. Behrens discussed the lighting updates. The authorization letter was received from Osram Sylvania stating if they do not receive the bid, the county is obligated to pay them. Behrens said this is not the agreement that was approved by the committee. A response will be sent to Osram Sylvania stating the evaluation was offered as free service and payment will not be authorized for service. Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake reported on the following. Johnson Controls will present to the committee next month. Drake and Bob Vetter with Preeminent Development performed the building walk-around last week. The backflow preventer at the Administrative Center has a leak and is scheduled for repair Tuesday morning. This will require the water in the building to be shut off for a period of time, but Drake will notify all departments. The heat pump in the county boardroom is scheduled for replacement. The courthouse and jail inspections include the elevator and the fire suppression system in the jail kitchen. Behrens opened fertilizer bids as follows. United Prairie, $18,221.48, which is $46.50 per acre, based off the low rate VRT maps required amounts 391.37 acres. United Prairie, $28,709.63, which is $73.36 per acre, based off the high rate VRT maps requirement amounts of 391.37 acres. Bidder noted they would not go with this recommendation as it is hard to build the potash levels according to the VRT recs because of the sandy soil types and the sand can't hold onto high amounts of potash. United Prairie bid $3,488.10. $8.91 per acre based off the current VRT lime recommendation maps. Bidder noted this bid reflects equal semi-loads versus required tonnage. The map for the courthouse farm is not correct. Also, the recs for lime on soil pH levels of 6.5 and 6.6, which I do not understand the reasoning for, since we tried to build the pH to 6.5. This bid is for spring application only. Fall application would be preferred due to roads being posted by freezing weather. Van Horn, $27,206.50. Total cost of DAP, potash, and limestone applied and hauled. Bidder noted in order to not compact soil with semis and loaders and reduce yields, lime will be spread following 2018 crop. Heritage FS, $27,616.80. Potash, $354 per ton. DAP, $476 per ton. Limestone, $23 per ton. Crop production, potash, $370 per ton. DAP, $505 per ton. Limestone, $25 per ton. It was moved by Johnson, second by Hasbargen, to accept fertilizer bid from United Prairie in the amount of $18,221.48, which does not include limestone. Roll call vote was taken. Alt abstain, Hasbargen aye, Johnson aye, McGinnis aye, Awful aye, Barron's aye. Motion carried. Barron's presented a revised fertilizer bid form for the committee to review. After review, the committee added language stating all information must be included on the bid form or the bid may be rejected. It was moved by Hasbargen, second by Awful, to approve the updated fertilizer bid form. Motion carried by a voice vote. The lawn care bid form was reviewed and discussed. Hasbargen asked Drake how the lawn care service was last year. Drake answered he didn't have any problems and the only minor issues that occurred were handled promptly. Johnson stated she would like to see the bid form specifically determine the height of grass, and if the grass is above set height when mowed, the contractor must rake and remove debris from the premises. Further discussion was held on changing the verbiage in the bid form and contract to include an addendum sheet stating the grass will be maintained between 3 to 5 inches. Johnson said many contractors will not bid on a project because it's not specific enough. It was also noted that an increase in cost could occur due to adding these specific items. It was moved by Awful, second by Alt, to not make any changes to the current lawn care bid form and send bids out for lawn care. A roll call vote was taken. Alt aye, Hasbargen aye, Johnson nay, McGinnis aye, Awful aye, Barron's aye. Motion carried. The committee toured the Animal Control Office, Iroquois County Public Health Department, and Veterans Assistance Office. ICPHD Administrator Dee Shippert explained that she believes Veterans Assistance has a valid request for wanting to move offices, but so does the Health Department. Superintendent of Veterans Assistance Jennifer Ingram said she would like to use the back office as her own office and the front office space as an office for her work study once it has been approved. The extra room will also allow for her clients to wait inside the office rather than out in the hall. Shippert said she also has an intern at this time and is interested in moving the environmental health staff into the office space. This will allow the senior service staff to have privacy for their clients. Following the tour of offices, the committee discussed the office space. Barron suggested using animal control as a joint space for both the Health Department and Veterans Assistance. Johnson offered a suggestion to move the Health Department into the Volunteer Services location, and Volunteer Services can relocate into IDA office. McGinnis said he would approach Regional Superintendent Greg Murphy about relinquishing the ICANN office. This would allow Ingram, if she is agreeable, to relocate into the IDA office and ICANN office. IDA Director Ken Berrigree will relocate into the Veterans Assistance Office. Barron's reminded the committee that the location still needs to be available for the County Board Chairman and for negotiations. It was moved by McGinnis and seconded by Hasbargen to relocate veterans into ICANN and IDA offices and relocate IDA into the Veterans Assistance Office, pending conversation with the parties involved. Motion carried by a voice vote. Johnson asked that a plan be in place for Animal Control Office by April. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by McGinnis, second by Awful, to pay the claims, subject to county board approval. Motion carried by a roll call vote. During new business, Barron's noted that we must give Champaign County Regional Planning Commission a 90-day notice if we would like to increase their rent. It was moved by Awful, second by McGinnis, to adjourn the meeting at 11:49 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the management committee report. Is there a second? This is Awful. Any questions or comments about the report? Mr. Alt.
For what it's worth, Ms. Abrams had 2 county resident veterans with her during the trip, during the meeting.
Yeah.
Gordon Sagerbrook and Compton, I can't think of his first name right now. And there might have been a third, I'm not sure.
No, there was just the 2. They're both her board members.
Her board,
Yeah.
Francis Thompson was the name.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mrs. Crowe.
When does the lease for the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission expire?
I don't remember right offhand. I do know that as long as we make a motion to do anything at the next meeting, we're fine. It was just brought up so people could be thinking about it.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Lemay?
Well, it says pending conversation with parties involved, and have those conversations happened? I talked to Mr. Murphy, we're meeting here tomorrow at 8:30. So anyway, we'll see. So my question is then, in approving this, we're not approving that change, we're just approving that we're going to have discussions.
Right. We got to get all the parties to agree on everything.
I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah. I mean, as long as everybody agrees, then it's taken, we've taken all the steps.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Asbargen. Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
Lemay.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful. Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Stucknott. Whitlow. Alt. Behrens.
Yes.
Bills. Bowman.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
17-0.
That motion is approved, 17-0. Tax Committee, Mr. Thicknoth.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred tax would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on February 6, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Sticknott, Crumweedy, Kokenauer, Awful, Persley, and Whitlow. McTaggart was absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schur, Finance Director Anita Speckman, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Treasurer Mindy Kuntz-Hagen, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler, ICPHD Administrator Dee Shippert, and ICPHD Director of Nursing and Social Services Vonda Pruitt. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Whitlow and seconded by Persley to approve the agenda, motion carried by a voice vote. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Awful and seconded by Persley to pay the claims subject to county board approval. Motion carried by a roll call vote. Persley questioned the capability of viewing claims dated back to 2008. Finance Director Anita Speckman advised Persley to submit his request to her. There were no public comments. County Clerk Lisa Fancher presented 26 resolutions and deeds for partials throughout the county that were sold at the auction in September 2017. It was moved by Kevin Kokenauer and seconded by Troy Crumweedy to approve the resolutions and deeds which will transfer properties that were acquired through the delinquent tax process. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. Fancher explained to the county trustee Fancher explained that the county trustee provides a list of properties each year that the county is holding to prevent tax bills from being sent to these parcels. Copies of the list are given to Treasurer Mindy Coons-Hagen and Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler. It was moved by Whitlow and seconded by Awful to approve the list of tax bills to be voided. A roll call was taken. Motion carried. The department heads gave their monthly reports. Fancher reported there is a delay in early voting due to a pending appeal by a candidate for Attorney General on the Democrat ballot. Yergler reported the Board of Review has sent out tentative change notices and final hearings will start next Tuesday. Yergler made the committee aware he submitted his credentials to the Policy and Procedure Committee as a request to be reappointed. Yergler's appointment expires in May. Kokenauer asked Yergler how the county's inspectors are appointed. Yergler explained he posts an advertisement in the county's website and contacts contractors in the area. Speckman reported the deposits for animal control licensing is going well. The FY18 budget is approximately $6,900 per month. There were $6,870 in deposits for the month of January. Fancher asked Speckman if the process is still the same if individuals don't pay their registration. Speckman explained there is a process and it will be followed the same as it had been in the past. County Board Chairman John Schur spoke to the committee about joining the Illinois Association of Animal Control. Schur said he visited their site asking for more information. They charge $25 per year for joining. Kokenauer asked what some of the advantages would be for joining. Schur answered the advantages would be keeping up with legislative matters related to animal control. ICPHD Administrator D. Shippard noted the Health Department communicates very well with the association. Members of the committee agreed to look into the membership before enrolling at this time. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Crumweedy and seconded by Awful to adjourn the meeting at 9:27 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted by those present, and I move for its adoption.
Motion on the floor to approve the tax committee report, seconded by Mr. Crumweedy. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Mr. Hasbargen.
You forgot to mention that
Could you speak into your microphone, please, sir?
You forgot to mention that you visited KCHF and you called Central Animal Control Facility. How did that turn out for you?
Turned out just fine.
That wasn't discussed at the tax committee, Mr. Hasbargen.
You forgot to mention that. Yes, that's what I say. It should have been there. That has to do with animal control.
It wasn't on the agenda.
Animal control is never on the agenda?
No, those visits were not on the agenda.
Okay, so you're suggesting I bring this up another time, maybe?
Bring it up to the next tax committee meeting.
Okay.
Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Johnson. Yes. Crumweedy.
Yes.
Lemay.
Yes.
McGinnis. Awful. Yes. Kersley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Stignott.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Barron's.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow. Yes. Curtis. Hashbargen.
Motion is approved, 17-0. Health Committee, Mr. Crumweedy.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Health would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on February 6, 2018 at 9:30 a.m. Members present, Crumweedy, Kokenauer, Awful, Persley, and Whitlow. McTaggart was absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schur, ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert, ICPHD Director of Nursing and Social Services Vonda Pruitt, and County Board Member Marvin Sticknott. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Kevin Kokenauer and seconded by Barbara Awful to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert distributed an updated grants and contract spreadsheet. Shippert reported the lead grant was signed in January. The committee reviewed the program summary report for fiscal year 18. Shippert noted environmental health issues issued 153 food permits in December and 26 food permits in January. There were 12 garbage waste hauler truck inspections performed in January. Community Health administered 68 immunizations for children and 3 immunizations for adults. Shippert spoke to the committee about the flu virus, explaining it is a contagious illness caused by influenza viruses that affect the nose, throat, and lungs. The flu is not associated with vomiting. Signs and symptoms of having the flu include, but are not limited to, running a fever, cough, sore throat, runny or stuffy nose, and body aches. The periods of contagiousness is within the first 3 to 4 days after the illness begins. Shippert explained the different types of flu, such as H1N1 and H2N3. Shippert stressed that you cannot get the flu from the flu shot. The flu shot does not contain a live virus. If you get the flu after receiving the flu shot, chances are you were already infected with the virus. Shippert urged the committee to visit the CDC's website at cdc.gov to read transcripts from their weekly meetings regarding this flu season and other communicable diseases. Next month, Director of Environmental Health Terry Hyman will report to the committee on food and restaurant inspections. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Awful and seconded by Kokenauer to adjourn at 10:17 a.m., all of which is respectfully submitted, signed by all members present today. I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Health Committee report, seconded by Mr. Persley. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Whitlow.
I'd just like to compliment Dee on an
Can you speak into your microphone,
Yeah,
please?
sorry about that.
Thank you.
I'd like to compliment Dee on an excellent presentation to our committee on that, very informative on the flu and, the repercussions and everything. Excellent.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Crowley,
Yes.
Lemie,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Awful. Yes. Persley.
Yes.
Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Barons.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow. Yes. Curtis.
Yes.
Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson. 17
That motion is approved, 17-0. Judicial and Public Safety, Mr. Behrens.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Judicial and Public Safety would beg leave to submit the following report on matters before them. Your committee met at the courthouse on February 7, 2018 at 3 p.m. Members present were Behrens, McGinnis, Crow, Curtis, Lemie, Awful. Jed Whitlow was absent. Also present, Probation Supervisor Barb King, State's Attorney Jim Devine, Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines, County Board Chairman John Schur, and Wendy Davis with the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Vince Lemie and seconded by Ernie Curtis to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. State's Attorney Jim Devine presented a resolution requiring committee approval to allow the Circuit Clerk's Office to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Office of the Comptroller in an effort to collect debts owed to Iroquois County by intercepting tax refunds from individuals who owe the county money. Devine explained the agreement was signed by himself and Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines in January, but a resolution is required. Hines stated there is approximately 30% fees associated with the debt recovery program. It was moved by Lemie and seconded by Barb Awful to approve the resolution approving the agreement between Iroquois County Circuit Clerk and Illinois Office of the Comptroller. Motion carried by a voice vote. Devine also presented a resolution requiring committee approval for the state's attorney's appellate prosecutor. Devine stated they handle all of our appeals and the cost to participate in their program each year is $8,000. This is an item Devine already has budgeted. It was moved by Donna Crow and seconded by Lemie to to approve payments for the services from the offices of the State's Attorney's Appellate Prosecutor Fund as defined in the enumerated State's Attorney Appellate Prosecutor Act 725 ILCS 210/1 ET SEQ. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. Lastly, Devine reported grand jury was held today with 12 cases. The jury trial for murder that occurred in Milford is scheduled for April 23rd. Probation Supervisor Barb King reviewed the probation and court services activity report for January with the committee. Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines distributed her monthly report to the committee for their review. A total of $42,701.67 was received in fines and fees, and $4,704.94 was received from credit collection partners. The committee reviewed the ETSB report for January. During new business, Judicial Chairman Lyle Behrens informed the committee the July Judicial and Public Safety meeting needs to be changed due to the Independence Day holiday. He asked the committee members and department heads to check their schedules and report back to him on what day and time would work best to reschedule. The committee reviewed claims. It was moved by Lemie and seconded by Curtis to pay the claims subject to county board approval. Roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. There was no further business to come before the committee. It was moved by Chad McGinnis and seconded by Lemie to adjourn the meeting at 3:29 p.m. Motion carried by a vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Judicial and Public Safety report. Is there a second? Mr. Lemie. Excuse me. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Lemie,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Apple, Persley,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Sticknot,
Yes.
Whitlow,
Yes.
Alt, Behrens,
Yes.
Bills, Bowman, Crow, Curtis, Hasbargen, Johnson, Crumweed,
Yes.
17-0.
Motion is approved 17-0. Planning and zoning. Mr. Raymond. Who did that? I didn't do that. I'm so used to the other way, excuse me. That's, in fact, that's the way it is here in the minutes, too.
Going by the agenda, we got a highway report. We got two reports here. I'm going to read them both, and I'll look for adoption for both of them. If there's a question, we can separate them out later. Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee whom referred Transportation Highway would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Iroquois County Highway Building on January 31st, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present was Bills, Alt, Crow, Hashbargen, Johnson, and Chad McGinnis. Kevin Bowman was absent. Also present, Assistant County Engineer Doug Butzaw and Illinois Department of Transportation Representative Roger Blakely. The meeting was called to order. The meeting was called to order. There was no public comment. It was moved by Donna Crow and seconded by Charles Alt to approve the agenda. That motion carried. Assistant County Engineer Doug Butzaw read the bids for the following: Belmont Township Road District Bridge, a Millport Town District Bridge, the county-wide reseal, the county-wide stock chips, county-wide stockpile of the CA 6 and 10, furnish and spread some CA 6 and 10s, some pipes, and our county road oil. It was moved by McGinnis and seconded by Alt to table action until the regular Transportation and Highway Committee meeting on February 9th, 2018, subject to tab review. That motion was carried. Quotes for township furnishing and application of chloride were read. No action was needed. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Hashbargen and seconded by Alt to adjourn the meeting at 10:23 a.m. That motion carried. Then we have a report. Your committee met, whom referred Transportation Highway, would beg leave to submit a report following matters before them. Your committee met at the Iroquois County Highway Building on February 9, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present was Bills, Alt, Crow, Hashbargen, Johnson, and Chad McGinnis. Kevin Bowman was absent. Also present, County Engineer Joe Moore, County Board Chairman John Schur, and Wendy Davis of the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. There was no public comment. It was moved by Charles Alt and seconded by Larry Hashbargen to approve the agenda. Motion carried by voice vote. The claims and financial reports for the month were reviewed. It was moved by Alt and seconded by Chad McGinnis to pay the bills subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken. That motion carried. County Highway, we spent $57,986. County Bridge shows $426. County matching was $1,314. County motor fuel tax was $20,311, and nothing out of the township motor fuel tax. County Engineer Joel Moore discussed and reviewed the results of the January 31st letting. It was moved by Donna Crow and seconded by Sherry Johnson to accept the low bids from the January 31st, 2018 letting. A roll call vote was taken. That motion carried. Moore presented petitions for county aid for bridge and culvert replacements in Concord Township. Moore said the total cost of these bridges is to be estimated to be about $375,000 for one bridge and $125,000 for the other two bridges. It was moved by Hashbargen and seconded by Crow to accept the three petitions from the Concord Township for bridge replacement. That motion carried by voice vote. A resolution to spend county bridge funds for a pipe culvert replacement in Prairie Green Township was discussed. It was moved by Crow and seconded by Johnson to accept the resolution to spend county bridge funds for a pipe culvert replacement in Prairie Green Township. A roll call vote was taken. That motion carried. Moore gave an update on the Belmont box culvert. County Materials paid 2/3 of the cost of the repairs to the section that was broke. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Hashbargen and seconded by McGinnis to adjourn at 9:30 a.m. That motion carried. All of which is respectfully submitted. Both these reports are signed by all members present, and I would move for adoption of both these reports.
There's a motion on the floor to approve both highway reports. Is there a second? Mr. Hashbargen, are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Apple. Yes. Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow. Curtis. Hashbargen. Johnson. Crumley. Lamine.
Yes.
That motion is approved 17-0. Now we'll do the planning and zoning report.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom is referred Planning and Zoning would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on February 9th, 2018 at 10:15 a.m. Members present were Curtis, McGinnis, Bursley, Dan Raymond, and Marvin Sticknoth were absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schur, County Board Member Charlie Alt, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by McGinnis and seconded by Bursley to approve the agenda. Motion carried by voice vote.
There were no public comments. The committee reviewed the Planning and Zoning Office report for January. It read as follows. Building permits January 2018, residential 3, agriculture 3. Building permits fiscal year 18, residential 6, agriculture 2. Building inspections January 2018, 9. The Planning and Zoning report also included acreage requirements for new construction. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by McGinnis and seconded by Persley to pay the claim subject to county board approval. Roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. During old business, Persley discussed the issue of a house on Lake Iroquois that was not on the tax rolls for approximately 5 years. No final inspection was performed on the house, but the homeowners were able to move in. Persley said he would like to know what procedures are to make sure inspections are complete. County Board Chairman stated there are possibly other cases where this has occurred and informed Persley this particular case happened under former zoning administrator. It is possible that procedures have changed since Supervisor of Assessment Bobby Yerkler took over the position, and it would be best to speak with him. Persley also brought up the matter of collecting taxes on billboards. McGinnis suggested Persley review the county's billboard ordinance to determine if they were able to place billboards on a tax roll. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Persley, seconded by McGinnis to adjourn at 10:57 a.m., all of which is respectfully submitted, signed by all members present, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the planning and zoning report. Is there a second? Mr. Persley, are there any questions or comments about the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Awful. Yes. Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow. Curtis.
Yes.
Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
Lamie.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
7-0.
That motion is approved 17-0. Next are claims. Everyone has a copy of the claims in front of them. Is there a motion to approve the claims? Mr. Whitlow, is there a second? Mr. Bills, are there any questions or comments regarding the claims? Mr. Hasbargen.
I put in a FOIA for new animal control officer. I wanted to see what she was turning in for claims. I suppose they're here. She transferred a dog to Kofax. $151 it cost us doing a Kofax. Called in the hospital by Yusuf, $55. Called in again to the clinic, $55. Transferred a dog to Champaign, $159 that cost us. I don't think we're getting a bang for our buck here. I think we're wasting money and spending it in the wrong places.
Okay, are you making a motion to deny those claims? Can you identify them in the claims?
I believe we need to draw some guidelines up on what claims can be and how we should handle our money.
Okay, but that's not what we're talking about at the moment. We're talking about the list of claims that's in front of us.
I want to deny the two where she's called in the office to talk to Yusuf. I don't think we should pay her to come and talk to Yusuf.
Okay. Does anybody care to make a second to that? Seeing none, I guess that motion has failed. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the claims? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow. Curtis. Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson. Crumweedy.
Yes.
Lamie.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful.
17-0, that motion passes. Appointments. Appointments are listed on the agenda in front of you. Is there a motion to approve the appointments? Mr. Behrens, is there a second? Mr. Bills, are there any questions or comments regarding the appointments? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Is there any old business this evening? Is there any new business? Motion to adjourn. Mr. Raymond, and seconded by Mr. Bills. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.